Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I explained verses 31 to 45 of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita in my last video. In this video, I will continue with the 46th verse, from the 46th verse. Before that, I would like to tell the summary of the last 15 verses. In those verses, Lord Krishna gave importance to Karma Yoga. He introduced the Karma Yoga. He said to Arjuna that one should do his own duty, Swadharma. If he abstains from doing his own duty for any reason, then he will be dishonored, and also the people, the enemies, as well as all the people who respect him, will take him so lightly, and they will not respect him for the rest of his life. And for a person who has been honored before, for him, dishonor is worse than death. And he also said that one must take the result, whatever it may be, success or failure, one must train the mind to take them at equally. One must see the result with evenness of mind. And he also said that a person who has a lot of desires and interested only in karma kanda, then his concentration will be divided and he cannot do his duty perfectly. Not only that, many people think that only Swarga is the ultimate. There is nothing more than that. So he asked Arjuna to pass over it. If he die in the battle, he will automatically get Swarga. If not, he will rule the nation. So why to give so much importance for Swarga? So Lord Krishna asked Arjuna to pass over those rituals and pass over that karma kanda and go for knowledge, that is wisdom. And to establish in wisdom, one must pass over the three gunas of the Prakriti. And for that, one must be firmly established in Sattva Guna itself. So this is the summary of the last 15 verses. And we will continue from the 46th verse, chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Yavanarthabudapane sarvada samplutotake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. Udapane means a reservoir, and samplutotaka means an area flooded with water. So here Lord Krishna asks, what is the use of a reservoir in the place where it is flooded with water? The reservoir will not have any use. So he says that a Brahmana, that is a person established in Brahmajnana. So a Brahmana, what is the use of the Vedas? He has read all the Vedas, he has understood it, he has even understood the Upanishads, and that's why he was able to establish himself in the self itself, Atmajnana itself. So what is the use of the Vedas for a person who has established his self in the self itself? Even in our worldly life, it is like that. We have learned to read the alphabets. So what is the use of those books now? So just like that, for a Brahmana who has realized his self, what is the use of the Vedas? It's just like the use of the reservoir in the place flooded by water. He says that. And in the next verse, that is the 47th verse, it's a very important verse. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma bhaleshu kadachana ma karma bhalahe durbuhu ma te sangotsva karmani. It's a very famous verse, and I would say it is the essence of Bhagavad Gita itself. It's the essence of karma yoga. And when you ask anyone to tell a sloka from Bhagavad Gita, most of the people, they say this sloka. But unfortunately, this is the most misunderstood sloka also. What Lord Krishna says is, what gives this misunderstanding is the adhikara. Adhikara. What is the meaning of adhikara? Adhikara means right. But Lord Krishna, what he means by adhikara is choice. Lord Krishna didn't say that you should do the duty, just ignore the result and go like that. No, no, no. He didn't say that. But what Lord Krishna is telling is, you have only the right to choose the action. You can choose the action according to your capacity. You can choose the action according to your wisdom. You can choose the action according to the influences from the surrounding. You can choose the action influenced by your karma, whatever it be. But you have wisdom, you will choose the action rightly. But once when you choose the action, the result is automatic. You cannot choose the result. That's what Lord Krishna is telling. The result is automatic. It will come automatically. It's just like byproduct. But you have to choose the action rightly. Once when you choose the action rightly, then everything will come as it is. You need not concentrate too much on it. And in the next line, Lord Krishna says, Ma karma phala hedurbuhu. Let not your motive be the karma phala alone. Let not your motive be the fruits of the action. Mate sangotsva karmani. Thinking that what is the use if you do not want the result, what is the use of doing action? Thinking like that, don't be attached to inaction also. Because when you are attached to inaction, or if you do not act in any situation, what will happen is you can keep your physical body still. You cannot activate the physical body. That's what you can do. But all the time your mind will be churning ideas. In fact, it is the mind that earns papa and punya. Only what the mind thinks, the physical body will do. So already the action is done in the mind. So if you keep your body idle, then the mind will be keep on doing karma. For that you will get karma bhala. So don't be attached to inaction also. And at the same time, let not your motive be only the result. And it is very much needed in this time, because most of the industries, in fact, all the industries in the world, whether it is IT industry or the hospitality industry or the entertainment industry, whatever it is, they work for the profit. But at the same time, they do not concentrate more on the work, and their concentration will be divided between the work and the result. The energy will be divided. But at the same time, if you, and not only that, we experience a lot of stress, and ultimately, one day or other, it will come to mental exhaustion. If the body is exhausted, okay, but if the mind is exhausted, then we will be good for nothing. So that's what Lord Krishna says, concentrate only on the work, action, and not on the result, because you cannot decide or choose the result. You cannot choose the result. So choose the action. You have only the right to choose the action, and you do not have the right to choose the result. That's what Lord Krishna says in this verse. Even when Lord Krishna said this Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, he had a minimum he would have had a minimum expectation that Arjuna will hear it and change his mind. And that is very clearly explained in the last chapter, that is the chapter 18. the verse is 63. I will read out that verse. In the last chapter, that is chapter 18, verse 63 says, Yiti te jnanamakyanam guhyad guhyataram maya vimrushyaitadasheshena yadechasi tatha kuru. Lord Krishna says here, after telling the entire Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Lord Krishna says that I have said to you the secret of the secret. And he says, after doing vichara in your mind, thinking over it, after thinking over it, yadechasi tada kuru. After thinking over it well in your mind, what you desire, you do that. Which means, he says the entire Bhagavad Gita and he didn't demand from Arjuna to that he should do it. He just set the entire Bhagavad Gita in the center of the war field and said that if you think over it, if you feel it is right, you do it. And this is Jagat Guru Lord Krishna. Even when we say something to our children, or if you are a teacher, we will demand that the students should listen to us. We will demand that the children should listen to us. But here he says, think over it. I have said all this, guhyat guhyataram, everything so secret of the secret to you. So you think over it, and if you feel it is right, do it. So Lord Krishna is just doing walk the talk here. Whatever result comes, just accept it. Because you cannot choose the result. Lord Krishna cannot choose whether Arjuna should listen or not. He just said this, what he felt he said. And if Arjuna feels right, he should follow it. That's the same thing. That is why I said he's just doing walk the talk. He just said everything and left for Arjuna to decide. And like that, he's telling, do all the action with full concentration. You cannot choose the result. Just leave it and concentrate on the action itself. Let your motive be not the result alone. By thinking that what is the use when we do not expect the result, what is the use if we cannot expect the result, thinking like that, don't be attached to inaction also. So that's what Lord Krishna says. It's a very famous sloka from Bhagavad Gita. The next sloka, that is the 48th sloka, says, Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Which means this equality of mind, seeing the siddhya, seeing the success and failure, taking that equally in your mind, that is yoga. This equilibrium is yoga. So endowed with this wisdom, do any action. Having this basic thought in your mind, that is, you have to concentrate only on the action, must take the result equally with this attitude in mind. Do the karma, any action. With the balanced state of mind, one should do the action. And that is yoga. That is, this equilibrium is yoga. And in the next verse, that is the 49th verse, Lord Krishna says, Durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanamanvichcha kripana phala hetavaha. That is, Lord Krishna in this verse very clearly differentiates between karma and the karma yoga. The action and the yoga of action. What he says is, doing karma, that is doing action, is far inferior than doing karma yoga. Karma as a yoga. That is, he says that doing action as a yoga, doing karma yoga is a superior. So let us see what are the difference between a karma and karma yoga. Just doing action and doing action as a yoga. If we do an action, just a karma, then as I said, our concentration in the action will be divided between the work and the result. Always we will be thinking about the result, and that gives a lot of stress in us. Many people suffer in it. They lose the job because of it. Tremendous stress we will experience when we target for the result also. So in doing karma as a yoga, in doing karma yoga, our concentration will not be divided. It will be one pointed determination. So in doing karma, the motive is only the result. To get the result, we have to do the action. We will not understand that if we do the work perfectly, then the result will come automatically. We will not have that understanding. But in doing karma yoga, the motive is the action. The next thing is, in doing karma, the result will influence us. But in doing karma yoga, the result will not influence us. We will do the action perfectly. In doing karma, because the result influences us, we will think about the past and the future. Suppose if we have done an action in the past, that result, whether success or failure, that will strongly influence our action now. So we will have an inhibition or a superiority complex. Either one of this we will have while doing the action. If you have experienced a failure in the past action, then an inhibition and inferiority complex will affect us. If we have won in that past action for many times, if you do the same action many times, and if you have done it perfectly all the past times, then that will give a superiority complex in us. So either way, that result of the past will affect us, and also if I lose this job, what will happen? What will people say about it? All that, or if we win this, what will people tell about it? That we will enjoy now itself. And in that way also the future affects the present action. But in doing karma yoga, we will not waver between the past and the future, and we will do the action existing in the present itself. When we do the action, that is a karma alone, then that karma will not purify our mind. And if it doesn't purify our mind, it will not improve our skill also. But in doing karma yoga, in taking action as a yoga, it purifies the mind. At the same time, it improves our skill in doing that particular action. So that's what Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna. And that's why Lord Krishna says that karma yoga is superior than karma. Anyway, you have to do an action. Why not do it as a karma yoga? That's what Lord Krishna is asking. Buddhi yukto jahati hai ubhe suhruda dushkrute tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karma sukaushalam. He says that casting off the good and evil results, casting off the results, endowed with this wisdom, do any action. If we do that any action, casting off the results, that is the success or failure, and if we do that action itself gives a sukha, that is, it gives peace of mind. It encourages us in many ways. It improves our skill. It improves our talent if you completely concentrate on the work and do any work as the karma yoga. And More than all this, it purifies our mind. So it gives us sukha. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantya namayam. He says that if a person do not care for the results and concentrate only on the action, do any karma as a karma yoga, then it purifies the mind and it will not have any attachment. He will not have any attachment. That means that action will not bind him. When the action does not bind him, then he is free of the transmigratory cycle. So it's a great yoga. It does not bind him, the action will not bind him. Because if we think of the result alone, to get that result, that our desire will be only on the result. Everyone wants a success, of course. So our desire will be only on the success. And we will be bound by that success itself. And to experience the success, we again take birth, again do action, again attached to the success. When our concentration is divided, success may or may not come. Still we are attached to success itself, again take rebirth. So it goes on and on and on. So Lord Krishna says, Tektva, ignoring the result. Anyway, the result will be according to our karma. We may expect one result, but the result may be another one in an adrishta way, in an adrishtapala. That's what we commonly said in the Shastras. We expect one result, but we will get another result in a more positive way. So result will be certain. So why not concentrate in the action alone? If we concentrate on the action alone, then it will relieve us from the janma, taking rebirths. That's what Lord Krishna says in this verse. And he also says that that person, padam gacchati anamayam, and he says that he goes to the abode that is above all evils, to that place which is above all evils. Anamayam, above all evils. So that's what he says in the 51st verse. And in the next verse, that is the 52nd verse, Lord Krishna says, in the 52 and the 53rd shlokas, Lord Krishna tells about the buddhi, that is our intellect. यदा ते मोहकलिलं बुद्धिर्व्यतितरिच्यति तदा गन्तासि निर्वेदं श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च. That is, mohakalilam, if our buddhi passes over, goes over that confusion, that delusion, then we will not have any difference between Shrotavyasya Shrutasya cha. We will not have any difference between what we have already heard and what we are about to hear. Because we have heard so many things already. In our life, we have learned so many things. But we are not satisfied with it. That's why we have an eagerness to learn more. And we have that eagerness and that result in anxiety. So that insatisfaction leads to anxiety. If we have that insatisfaction and anxiety, then we cannot concentrate on this yoga or in this action. So all these are caused by the delusion of the intellect. The intellect is confused. It is not sure what it needs. So one should pass over this intellect. If a person passes over this confusion of the intellect, delusion of the intellect, then he will have indifference between what he has already heard and what is to be heard. Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyasi nischala samadhavachala buddhihi tada yogamavapsyasi. He has heard so much from the Vedas. That is what he means is karma kanda. His mind has been so much deluded by the Vedic karma kandic sacrifices or whatever it is. The karma kanda can give, their goal is heaven, their ultimate is heaven, but even that is temporary. So we have heard so many things, but a person must have a nischala, that is immovable. He must be steady in wisdom. Only then he can attain self-realization. And nischala, immovable in what? In the self. A person must be established in the self. Nischala, with that intellect established in the self. Only then he can attain self-realization. Now, after hearing all this, that in the center of the war field, and the war is about, and this battle is about to commence, and Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that you must have equal mind, equal evenness of mind. You must take the success and failure equally. For a warrior of his stature, what will happen to his mind? What will he think? All this life he has been training himself, molding himself for success. And in the middle of the battlefield, Lord Krishna is telling, take success and failure equally. So this confused Arjuna's mind. And he is also telling that do concentrate only on the action, do not think about the success or failure. He's not trained like that. We have read Bhagavad Gita many times, so these concepts are familiar for us. But think about Arjuna. How all these concepts are new for him because that before that he has never heard about this concept. So he had the lot of confusion in this mind, and just like how we ask Lord Krishna, Arjuna also asked Lord Krishna. Let us see what he asked. Arjuna uvacha sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthita dih prabhachetha kimasidavrajetha kim. He asked, how will that sthita prajna be? How will be that person who is steady in wisdom? He has not seen before such a person, just like us. Even we have not seen a person who is so much endowed in wisdom in this modern world. Maybe Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi or Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. But after that, I don't think any person is so much endowed in wisdom throughout. But so he asked Lord Krishna, how will be that person who is steady in wisdom? Ka Bhasha, describe him. Description, what is his description? And how will he speak? A man of wisdom, how will he speak? And how will he sit? And how will he walk? The same doubt we also have. But Arjuna didn't know that Lord Krishna is that person. But we know that. But Arjuna, at the center of the battlefield, he didn't realize that Lord Krishna is that person. But Jagat Guru Lord Krishna very patiently answers for his question. In the next verse, he gives the answer. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Prajahadi yada kaman sarvan partha manogadan atmanyevatmana dushtaha sthita prajnastadochyate. This is also a very important verse, especially that phrase atmanyevatmana dushtaha. It's a very famous phrase, and many acharyas, when they write the bhashyas, even when they write the bhashyas for the prakarana granthas, they quote this phrase. This phrase is very important. Lord Krishna says, a person, that is, he will have no desires in the mind. He will have no desires in the mind because he is endowed in that bliss itself all the time. 24/7 he is endowed in that bliss. So he will not have any worldly desires. And he is Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha. Tushtaha means satisfied. He is satisfied in the self, by the self. Now we ordinary people, we are satisfied in the mind by our desires. Once when our desires gets is satisfied, we will be satisfied for a very short period. Before that, next desire pops up in our mind. We will be chasing a goal for a long time, and when it is about to happen, or once when it is happened, then immediately the next goal pops up in our mind. Even if it doesn't pop up in our mind, the people around us will kindle that desire or kindle that another goal. Now you have achieved this, so go for the next goal. So our mind is never satisfied. But for a jnani or a person endowed in wisdom, steady in wisdom, his mind is satisfied, and that also in the self by the self. Sri Adi Shankaracharya, in his Bhashya to Bhagavad Gita, he explained this phrase as, I will read out from his Bhashya. Atmani eva pratyagatma swarupe eva atmana svenaiva bahyalabha nirabeksha tushtaha. Bahyalabha nirabeksha tushtaha. That is, leaving all the external gains, independent of all the external gains, Atmani eva, content in the self itself, Pratyakatma Swarupe eva, in that nature of the self, in that Swarupa of the self, Atmana Svenaiva, that is, he exists in that self alone, independent of all that external gains. He is not satisfied by any external gains. He is satisfied in the self, by the self. So this phrase we always have to remember if you are interested in the Jnana Yoga. Even otherwise, in the worldly life also, this phrase can be taken. One must uplift oneself. Only that can one do. Any person can give us advice, or any person can help us in many ways, but one has to uplift oneself. No one else can do that. That's what Lord Krishna said in the beginning of the chapter 2, that is in the verse 3. 3 itself he said, Kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyakto tishta parantava. Leave the weakness of the mind, Arjuna. Get up and fight the war. Do your duty. That's what in another form he is telling also. Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha. One, that is, one must uplift oneself alone. Nobody can do that. They can give any advice, help us in many ways, but one has to uplift oneself. In the worldly life also, it is this phrase is useful. But a person who wants to go for that path of jnana, this phrase must be always remembered. Atmanyeva atmana dushtaha. One must be, he must be established in the self, satisfied in the self, by the self. That's what Lord Krishna says. And again he says, in the next verse, that is the 56th verse, he says, Dukkeshvanu vignamanaha sukeshu vigadasprihah vitaraga bhaya krodhah sthitadhi muniruchyate. That is, he will have that steady mind. He will not be shaken even by any misery or any worry. He will not be shaken by that. Sukeshu vigada sprikaha. When something positive happens or by success, he will not hanker over that success also. Think over it again and again, celebrate that success for 1 month or 1 week. He will not hanker over that success also. Basically, he will not derive a pleasure or derive any dukkha from whatever result he gained. Vitaraga bhaya krodha. So he will not have any attachment, any bhaya, fear, krodha, anger. So when will we have fear and anger? When we have a desire and when we are attached to it, then we get fear and anger. We go to outside, we go to the external world and we see a lot of objects, lot of things, lot of situations. But what attracts our mind is according to our desire. We may see many shops outside, but if you are interested in sweets, that sweet shop will only attract us. All the rest we will see, but that will not get registered in the mind. When we see something according to our likes, then we think over it, think over it, think over it, think over it, and that way we have an attachment. The nature of the mind itself, for whatever it is attached to, immediately the mind wants to own it. It wants to make it as its own, whatever it may be. It may be a sweet, or it may be a car, or whatever it is, or maybe a house. If we see something according to our likes, then we keep on think over it, attached to it, and we want to own it. So if something comes as an obstacle for that, for our desire, for owning it up, then if that obstacle is stronger than us, then we get fear of that obstacle. If that obstacle is much lower than our capability or capacity, then we get angry over that obstacle. So all these are happening according to our attachment. How much we attached, what is the importance we give for that attachment, it's all based on this. So a person steady in wisdom will not have desires in the first place and not any attachment. And so whatever obstacle it is, he will not be cared, he will not mind it. So he will not have any fear or any anger also. He is free of both this. Sthidhadi muni yuchati, the man of that steady wisdom, not shaken by this failure and not shaken by the success also, not hankering over that pleasure, that person is said as a sage. For us, it's a long way to go, I believe. Yes sarvatra nabhisnehah tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandadi nadveshti tasya prajna pradisthita. He goes everywhere, but he will not have attachment. He will not have attachment over anything. And whatever comes, he will accept it. Just like Lord Krishna. When he said the entire Bhagavad Gita, even if Arjuna would have rejected it, all these are not suitable for me, Krishna, so just leave me alone. If he would have said that, then also Lord Krishna would have accepted the answer and would have continued being his charity. But Arjuna accepted it. That's what he was able to continue in that battlefield. So a jnani, whatever it comes, he will accept it. He will not have any rejoice. That is, he will not be hanging over the pleasure. He will not rejoice At the same time, na dveshti, he will not hate anyone also. See, the obstacles will come in different ways. In the Shastras, there are three types of obstacles said in the Shastras. That is, one is the Adhyatmika, then the next is the Adi Daivika, and the third is the Adi Bhautika. The first obstacle is, and that is a very important obstacle, is Adhyatmika. That is the obstacle coming from our itself, from ourselves. Sometimes everything will be okay, but we will not have the mind to do it. So it's an obstacle for our job. Sometimes we may have a physical discomfort, even that headache or fever or like that. Even when we have a physical discomfort, we will come over it sometimes. But if we have that mental discomfort, like we may not be in a mood or we may feel lazy, then it is very difficult to come over it. So that is the first obstacle for any person, Adhyatmika. The next second type of obstacle is the Adidhaivika. That is, the obstacles will be from the nature. For example, when we are about to go to a function and if it just pours down, how will we go? We will find it as an obstacle. We may not feel comfortable. It is not easy to travel in the heavy rain. So, like that, many obstacles may come in the from the nature. And the next third is the adibhautika. Adibhautika means from the fellow beings. Sometimes we may be about to go to a function, and at that time, at that moment, someone who are your friend or some close relatives will come to your house. So we cannot ask them to go away. We cannot treat them well also. We will be in a confused state of mind and we will get anger sometimes fear, sometimes dejected. So that is another type of obstacle also. But sometimes the other people will not allow you to go out. So these are the obstacles coming from the other people, the fellow beings. So this is the adibhautika. We will be disturbed in these situations. But a jnani, he has no obstacle like adhyatmika or adidaivika or adibhautika. Whatever obstacle it comes, he remains stable with the evenness of mind. Anyway, we cannot do anything to the obstacle. Can we stop the rain? Or can we ill-treat the guest who comes to our house? We have to treat them well. So, leaving that second thought, just to be in the present than be in the future or in the past. So for a jnani, he will have no obstacles. Even if the obstacles is there, what Lord Krishna means is he will have steadiness of mind. That is the stable mind. So for a jnani who has a steady wisdom, he will not be attached to anyone and he will not hate anyone also. That's the evenness of mind. So I think I can take a break because from the next sloka, that is the 58th sloka, another concept is said by Lord Krishna. So I can take a break now and continue with the rest of Bhagavad Gita in my next video. Before I conclude, I chant the last verse. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishnaha Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha Tatra Shrirvijayo Bhuti Dhruvani Tirmama. Om Shri Krishna Paramastu.